Are men just as delusional as women? In short, yeah. But how and the reason why may prove to be greater than any of us previously thought or imagined. Or maybe we did. There is one point that has lingered in my head for the longest time, and now with some better understanding, I believe I may have cracked the code on this whole gender divide thing. You may disagree, and I'm open for dialogue, but follow along with me in my philosophy and let's pick apart this argument and let's see what's really going on. So, how? The how is that men are not the men of old, as they often say about women. They say that only women have changed, but I offer that they were only visibly changed. What do I mean? Women have been invested into with a bad deal of goods that have led them down a self-destructive path. Sexual liberation, feminism, all the things that led women to becoming the women that men don't want to commit to. And this has led to unfortunate results in women becoming more lonely than ever and more vulnerable than ever. But men have not been invested into and have even been preyed upon in ways that have changed us as well. And we've been attacked on 3 major fronts that has contributed to our change, like taking out skill programs in schools or trades. Women often say that men don't do men things, quote unquote, anymore. And it's kind of true, because we didn't have our fathers like that to teach us these trades or these things. And then these classes were stripped from schools, and now you have a bunch of men who don't know how to, quote unquote, be men anymore. And it was because these trade classes and our fathers were stripped away from us, leaving us without the ability to do these things that the men of old used to do. And included on this is that they commodify attention. Now, don't get me wrong, this affects everybody, but it affects men in a particular way. Let's use a couple of things for short. You have video games, prawn, and anime. These entities don't just compete with each other for our attention. They compete with our masculine potential. They fight over how much men could do better for themselves. Now follow me here. If men weren't constantly shoving their brains full of these things, they would have much more time to realize their potential and to invest their time in things that realize their potential, like in the days of old. These companies even have psychologists, psychiatrists that understand the way that the human brain works to make these things as addictive as possible. And with all of this going on, it leaves men in this kind of a Peter Pan perpetual boyish state. And lastly, they tamper with our nutrition and exercise. The food nowadays is so toxic, it's not even funny. America is okay with using dangerous ingredients that they don't use in other countries. I remember I saw a video where it was like this American dude talking about he went to another country or like Japan or something and was eating just as much as he normally does in America, and somehow he was able to lose weight. The thing is that the physical aspect of men, well, everybody as well, but focusing on men, the physical aspect of men is being fed by GMO productions that don't bring about the same results of the food of old. They don't have the same nutritional value. They've been sprayed with pesticides and other things that lead them to not giving us the same results. Also leading us to not having the same physical shape and energy as our grandfathers in their youth. So at the point of how women are not like the women of old, I also kind of help reinforce that men are not like the men of old. And it's not just because we never threw away the sexual marketplace value system, so we can say that we didn't change, but we also have to acknowledge all of the things that I mentioned before. We are not in the same circumstances as our grandfathers were. The economic times that they were born in were excellent for them, but not for us. Other like trades and skills and the ability to grow was much higher back in the day than it is now. So with all of these factors being added, we also have to acknowledge all of these things and admit that there's more to meet the eye with this issue when we say that some people have changed for the worse. We also have been changed unbeknownst to us, just like women have. But as to the reason why all of this is going on, now we kind of got to put on the tinfoil kufi or hat. Now, what if all of this was being done on purpose? What if all of this was being done to benefit the 1%? What if this gender war is just a distraction? And what if men are suffering just as much as the women? I believe the answers to all of these are either yes or true. But why haven't we fixed anything yet? If we look at what would happen if all of this stuff that happens to men were to change, what would most likely happen? Men are already kind of upset at the current state of the country and their lives at this point. What would happen if there were a bunch of capable men able to fix cars, do plumbing, do construction, electricity, handle weapons, running around with the ability to think for themselves? Now for the separasites out there, the white separasites and their associates, what if there were a bunch of these same capable but foundational Black American men out there with this ability to think for themselves, along with their discontent for the way things are here currently and previously? I think we're starting to realize why things are the way that they are, why they've been able to go on for so long without much contest. People stand to benefit when others don't have what they need. And some people would be okay with going down with a sinking ship as long as they aren't the first ones to touch the water. But what now? What do we do now that we understand the problem much better and the reason why it could exist? What we can start to do is we can start to acknowledge the truth and address it. Admit that we are not the men of old, just like these women aren't the same women of old. And work on being as much as that as we possibly can. And for us as men, to lead by example. Take some classes. Be willing to learn, pretty much invest your time into learning how to do these quote unquote men things of old. And maybe put a modern spin on it. But understand that we will not get what we think we want in the form of partners. Many people have these standards where they say, I want a woman who has like no body count or a woman with no kids. And women say that I want a man who makes 6 figures or is like over 6 foot tall or whatnot. And we have to understand that we may not get that, and we may not get what we want in the form of partners, but we just may get what we need in the form of these partners. Because the thing is that you yourself are not perfect. You yourself are not all that you are cracked up to be, or as high as you think that you are. Be you male or female. A little humility will go a long way in being realistic in understanding the situation that us as people are in right now. We are all not in a good spot. We are not all in a good place. We are all struggling, all trying to get by, all trying to make do with what we have. So when we come to accept reality for what it is and for what we do have, and learn to accept what we have, only then will we be able to move forward and definitely get what we need from these people who can be our partners. And always remember that duality and balance are the keys to life. Peace.